Well, hello again. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 2, looking at page 19. It's titled Signs, Signals, and Roadway Markings. So on page 20, Lesson 1 deals with traffic signs. First thing we need to realize is that signs change based on their shape and color. You can see down at the bottom of those two pages some different signs. On the left, those regulated by shape. Of course, the stop sign has a very unique shape, and the yield sign. And then on the right side, some that vary based on color. And then we have two different types of signs. The first one are regulatory signs. The other is warning, we'll talk about later. Basically, the easy way to remember this, excuse me, is regulatory signs tell you what you can or cannot do. There's no in between. It's not a suggestion, just you can either do this or you can't. The most important regulatory signs are stop and yield signs. Underneath the stop sign, it says, always come to a complete stop at a stop sign. The location of a stop sign or stop line indicates where to make a legal stop. If there is no stop line, make a full stop at the sign before entering the intersection. Stop where you can see approaching traffic, but stop before you reach any crosswalk. So they want your car stopped right at the sign. If you have a stop line, you can go up to that, like when you're getting off the freeway. Also, if there's a sidewalk beyond the stop sign, you can go to the edge of the sidewalk. Now, a lot of people roll through stop signs, okay? If you do this on your test, you will fail. Let me just show you real quick. This is usually what I do in class. So, somebody's driving along and they slow down, okay? That's not a stop. Okay, I've stopped moving. That's what a stop is. And don't think that if you come down, you're slowing down, and then just before you stop, you take your foot off the brake and the car has that little nudge. Don't think that you've stopped, okay? Please make sure it's a complete stop. The question is, what does the law say? Well, the law says you have to stop for 3 seconds. And then that's over here. Then over here is what most people do, and that is roll through it. If you completely blow through a sign, then you'll automatically fail. But if you roll through 3 times, it's considered a habit, and you will also fail your driving test. So, it doesn't take a lot of extra time. Just come to a complete stop, and then you're good to go. At a 4-way or all-way stop over on page 21, the driver who stopped first should be allowed to go first. When vehicles stop to the right or left of each other, so say I'm here and someone is over here to my right and we arrive at the same time, that driver is on my right, they would go first. They should know that I'm on their left, that they should also know that they go first. Sometimes there's confusion, and so be careful. When stopped across the intersection facing oncoming traffic, the driver going straight should be allowed to proceed first. So the driver turning left would wait. Obviously, if both are going straight across, you're okay to go. Show your intention to proceed by moving forward slowly before entering the intersection. Make sure other drivers know what you're doing. Check for traffic ahead and to the sides before entering the intersection. I'm going to mention something here while I'm remembering. So if you're traveling straight across the intersection, you should check left, right, left, and then usually the book says to go ahead. But I'm going to suggest that you check each direction twice. Cars have changed. If I look left and then right, okay, I may not see a car that is beyond the door pillar that can be about this wide. Most new cars have an airbag inside there. And it's much stronger to make the passenger compartment stronger. So if I'm crossing that intersection, I look, and then I look right, I may not see that car. So if I look, I'm like, oh, I'm good to go. And then I start out and there's a car. And the reason is it was hidden behind that door pillar. So check both directions twice. Okay, yield signs. Slow down. Be prepared to stop if you need to. Check both directions like I just explained. And if it's safe, no one's coming, then you're good to go. Don't just keep the same speed and look and then go through it. Slow down. Be prepared to stop at a yield. Speed limit signs. Okay, these are the white ones. They show the maximum and sometimes a minimum speed. States are permitted to establish their own speed limits. Speed limits are set for ideal driving conditions. So if it's a bright sunny day, it's a dry road, those are ideal conditions. Because let's say it's at night and it's snowing and you're traveling 40 miles an hour, you might get pulled over and ticketed because that's too fast. So it depends on the conditions. The basic speed law states that you may not drive faster than is safe and prudent for existing conditions, regardless of the posted speed limit. An advisory speed limit is set for special conditions such as sharp curves and is often posted below a warning sign. So if you have a warning sign that's yellow and it has a curve, below that it may have a speed limit, and that's a warning sign saying, you know, you probably should go down to that speed. For example, when we go to Delta, there's a road that goes straight to Oak City and then it turns slightly left towards Delta. It suggests you go from the 65 speed limit down to 55. So that's an advisory speed limit. In some areas, special speed limits are set for different times of day. For example, during school zones, that's a 20 mile per hour zone unless it's posted differently. Night driving in some areas might have a suggested speed limit. Other types of regulatory signs on the top of 23, on the right you can see those. No right turn, do not enter, wrong way. You'll see those on the freeway off ramps if you're going in the wrong direction. No parking, passing with care, and one-way roads. Okay, warning signs is the next one, and you can see these are yellow, diamond-shaped signs. And so different things there. Road narrows, there's a divided highway, alligator crossing. Hopefully we don't see many of those, but we regularly see a sign that might have a cow on it, or a deer, or elk, telling us that beware, those animals could be present in that area. The signal ahead sign, that's interesting because when it's on the driving test, some students think, well, I can't tell what color is showing. Well, that's not the point. The sign is telling you that you're approaching a traffic signal. And then there's some others at the bottom. So those are all warning signs. Okay, pedestrian or school zone. So if you look at the top sign, that means you are within a pedestrian or approaching a pedestrian crossing. So places where people would be crossing the road. When you get to the school zones, okay, you can see the difference between the two. The one just has two people in it. That means there's a school zone. So as I'm sitting here, just to the east of us, about a half a block, there's a school zone sign. That means you are entering a school zone, drop your speed to 20. Then if there's a place within the school zone where students may cross the road, that is a school crossing, and you'll notice they've added the lines at the bottom of that sign. Okay, down at the bottom, different signs. So we've got railroad crossings, the round one, and then the crossbuck. Orange signs typically talk about construction zones, and then slow-moving vehicle signs. Orange triangle, red border, corners lopped off. Okay, page 25. We have guide signs. These are tell us what types of roads we're on and which road we're driving on. So the top one where it says 40, that's a U.S. route marker. So that is a highway that's found anywhere in the United States. And of course the most popular is Route 66 or Route 66. A state route marker means that road is found only within that state. And then we actually have I've seen county route markers. If you're getting off the freeway and headed to Kanosh, as you come up out of the bottom, you might see a county road sign there. Okay, the others are interstate signs. That means our freeway or interstate highway system. A lot of people, even though we've heard this a lot, don't realize that I-15, the I stands for interstate. And something quick about the numbers. So we drive more recent, or we have I-15 next to us, and it's an odd number. That means that it's going north and south. And these start in the west. So in California, you would see I-5. And then we have I-15, so as you move farther east, those numbers would increase. Okay, going east and west, just south of us, we have I-70. And it starts in Beaufort and ends in Beaufort, and it goes across the country, clear across the country to the east. And then farther south of I-70 down into Arizona is I-40. And so again, those roads travel east and west. And then north of us, up by Salt Lake, we have I-80. So again, from the south, I-40, 70, 80, and so they start in the south and get higher as you move north, and again, traveling east and west. So that's a little bit about the numbering system. So those route signs, other guide signs like how far is it to the next city, usually brown signs identify recreation type areas, and then blue signs are usually services. If there's a rest area, or if it's telling you where a hospital is or a scenic area, something like that. International signs, so we don't typically see these. They might be in other countries. So anyway, those are a little different. You can kind of see obviously a tunnel ahead or falling rocks. They actually have a picture of the falling rocks. For us, and I noticed they made a change. The signs used to say falling rocks, but more than likely you're not going to see the rocks falling. So they've changed those, and they now say fallen rock. And they're the warning signs, the yellow diamond shaped. Okay, number 2, traffic signals. So a traffic signal is what you can see at the bottom, or traffic lights, and the order is red, yellow, green, starting at the top, as you can see in the picture. If the signal is turned sideways, then the order is the same, going left with the red, then yellow, then green on the right side of the sign. And the reason that it's standard is if there is somebody who is colorblind, they will know, of course, which light is lit up based on its position. So at a red light, of course, you are stopped. You're completely stopping. The yellow light means you are preparing to stop. Doesn't mean give it gas and get through the light. However, there is a thing that you need to do while you drive and you're approaching these traffic signals. As you approach in your mind, you need to be thinking, okay, I can stop. But then there's going to be a point where you're like, okay, I need to just go because I'm so close that I wouldn't be able to safely stop. And then of course green, you proceed, but doesn't mean just give it gas and go because I have the green light. It means to proceed if safe. So as you're moving ahead, obviously check the sides, make sure somebody hasn't run the red light. Okay, other signs, right turn on red. So typically in Utah we can pull up to a red light, and if it's safe, we look left and make sure nobody's coming, then we can turn right on that red light. In some cases, you can make a left turn on a red light, usually from a one-way street to a one-way street going left. But again, stop, look, make sure it is safe before you proceed. Computerized traffic lights, so you might exit up in Provo and you're traveling the speed limit. You might make it through 6 or 8 green lights if you hit them at the right time because they are computerized. Okay, other traffic signals. So if you have a flashing signal Anytime you have flashing red, treat that like a stop sign. Stop completely, proceed when safe. If it's a flashing yellow, treat those like a yield sign. Slow down, look and make sure it's safe, and then you're okay to go. A red arrow means you cannot turn in that direction. A yellow arrow means it's going to be turning red. So if you can, prepare to stop. And then the green arrows, of course, go in the direction of the arrow, and that means it's safe to go. Lane signals can tell you which lane to be in. Sometimes they'll close lanes or have them going in an opposite direction based on the time of day for rush hour traffic. Okay. Pedestrian signals, so you have this symbol that the person can walk, or the red hand means don't walk. If a person is blind and they're at the intersection, usually larger cities, then they'll have a beeping sound, which means it's okay for them to proceed. Okay, if you have the lights appear to be working, but you have an officer standing out in the intersection directing traffic, then you need to obey that officer out in the road. An interesting chart you can see over on page 31. Notice these are the pedestrian injuries on a Wednesday. Number of pedestrians in thousands down at the bottom. So notice 3 to 6 p.m. is when the most pedestrians have been injured. 6 to 9 is the second highest. So the reason for that is 6 to 9 a.m. people are going to work, walking to work, and then 3 to 6 people are returning home from work. In my opinion, the reason that the afternoon one is higher is people are tired from work. They have a lot on their mind, both walking and driving, and so that's why there's more crashes at that time. Okay, number 3. So these are roadway markings. So the lines, the colors, the symbols that are on the actual road itself. So the first thing we need to do is understand what is the difference between the colors. Well, yellow lines separate traffic traveling in opposite directions on two-way roads. Yellow lines may be single or double. So looking down at the bottom, so if you have a single line and it is dotted, that means it is safe to pass, of course, if no one else is coming. And you need to be very careful as you pass in that situation. The middle sign, or middle picture, shows you two solid yellow lines. That means that the cars cannot pass over that double yellow line. Okay, far right-hand picture. So you're approaching a hill and there's a solid line in your lane if you're the yellow car. That means they cannot pass because it's a hill. You might have a solid yellow line when it's approaching an intersection. So be aware. Now the car coming down the hill, they have a clear view ahead, so they have dotted lines on their side, and they could pass if the situation was appropriate. Okay, let's look at white lane markings. So a white line means that traffic is traveling in the same direction. So you would see white lines on the freeway. The line on the right, the dotted line in the middle between the two lanes is a white line. Now, of course, the far left lane on the freeway is yellow, meaning it is separating traffic moving in opposite directions, because beyond that, there's the other direction, the southbound or northbound lane, depending on which way you're going. Okay? So top of the picture, or top left, dotted white line, you can pass freely back and forth. Again, you need to check for traffic coming behind you, but you can pass when you're able to. Okay, a solid white line means that it might be hazardous. Okay, so we have a situation down by the bus barn. You can actually turn right and get onto Main Street when a car is coming, because the car that's coming has one lane. When you turn right at that spot, there are now two lanes, so you have a lane added, but there's a solid white line. As you get down the road a ways, that solid white line changes to a dotted white line. So it means as you first enter the road, be careful, don't move over. Then once you've traveled on it for a while, you can check your situation and then pass over into that left lane if you need to. And then there's some other arrows. Right turn only, you can go straight or make a left turn, or you can make only in a left depending on which lane you are in. Okay? Other markings over on page 34. There's a stop line before the crosswalks usually. School crossings. Railroad crossing, okay, you have a stop line and you're approaching a railroad tracks in front of you. And then pedestrian crosswalks. Bottom left, that's an HOV, so the diamond shapes white symbol in your lane means an HOV lane. That means you have to have 2 or more people in your car to travel in that. Motorcycles can travel in it, and school buses. If you have a special ID, a special thing in your car, you as a single driver can drive in that, but you probably will pay for that opportunity to do so. Okay, highway exit ramps can have reduced speeds on them, be aware of that. And then the next picture shows a shared left turn lane. That's what we have on our Main Street here in Fillmore. Okay, turning lanes, that's the shared left turn lane. Reversible lanes, again, where they might have traffic going in opposite directions based on the time of day. HOV lanes we talked about. Parking restrictions, red, you can't park at a red curb. White usually is active parking, usually just briefly. And then of course the handicap parking, you have to have the little placard or license plate that says you're able to park there. Okay, rumble strips, these are the little indentations in the road along the side that if you fall asleep and you go over, that rumble strip hopefully would wake you up. Sometimes you have speed bumps. A huge one, sometimes we'll drive down to Beaver in between their school and the gymnasium. There's a couple of large speed bumps. You definitely need to be going slow on those. And then reflective markers. So in our area, if there are reflective markers on the road, they are indented down into the asphalt. If you're down in, say, Mesquite, these markers may be raised because they're not going to have a snowplow out on the road. If they had a, would make sense to put those here because the snowplows would just pop them off the road. So that's chapter 2, and thank you.